What is up, DTube Steam blockchain? So today I want to talk about something I was reading a Steam article saying that proof of brain is not really real and that it doesn't work and so on. And Justine, with an H at the end, on Steam blockchain, she wrote a great comment talking about stop being helpless. So I want to talk about that because I love that quote, stop being helpless. And I want to add in sort of what I see in this. When I see complaints, this is the way I look at it. So what I see is a lack of devotion. So the way I see it is, if a person is really enjoying making content, then that should be the main reward itself. That should be the main reward itself. If they're enjoying making a lot of content, they would give it all. They would give it all. They would create the best value possible. They wouldn't hold back. They wouldn't even probably not even do just 200-word posts. They probably would write 1500 words or something like that. They would really give it all. And they would add photos, great photos in the posts, maybe even some videos. They would do the best sort of work. And that would be not being helpless. So people have learned to sort of be helpless in many ways in our culture. It's not any individual's fault, but it's just the way a lot of structures has been done with the daddy state and a big welfare system and so on, and that life is not really, especially in the Western world, life is not really that hard if you don't really have to do anything in many ways, because you have so many welfare systems, you have so many stuff going on, that if you don't do anything, nothing is really happening. So you have sort of get, in many ways, you can get very easy into an entitled mode, and and that's what you see a lot of entitlement. And people learn to be helpless. They can't help themselves. They can't reach out. They can't do stuff themselves. They can't be inclusive. This is a lot what I am seeing. And also that when people are looking at stuff, they completely are missing devotion and gratitude. So they think, for example, they have to do everything themselves, and they're still in a fight or flight mode, sort of, where they almost see a problem in everything, and they are focusing on one negative thing when you have so many good things happening. Why don't focus on the little good and expand on that? Like, why don't you focus more? Why don't you have more focus on that? So this is kind of interesting. So I want to add in this thing that we live in a market economy. A market economy means the market decides, which means you have to figure out the way to figure out your own niche, figure out your own intelligence and how you can fit into this market economy. And at the same time as you're trying to increase your talents, increase your skills, become better at your craft, and looking more at it as a craft that you're devoted to and enjoying the process in. And then you're not really going to be helpless because you're just enjoying doing something. But this also means you have to look at the market. So if this is a market economy, then it means you really have to do something that stands out. If you're doing something that's super easy, let's say 200 words in just a post, no images, no video, just 200 words, and maybe you just wrote it in 15 minutes or 10 minutes. Well, if you look at it from a market economy perspective, this is not really probably that much value in a market economy. It may be occasionally you can have some votes here and there, but you sort of want to look at how you can sort of add more value, like give all value, where you figure out a niche where you truly can stand out and then let's say have your own voice. So have to look at this, and I do know that not all people want to go all the way, and this is a thing that I've seen with market economy is if you do things half baked, especially in a global world, people have so quick access to the best of something, so they sort of want the best service, they want the best niche, they want the people that are really dedicated to something, they want the devoted people, and so in many ways you sort of have to be the best in some form of niche or something. You have to sort of figure out some way to truly stand out, and most people have not focused so much on this, which means they usually become a bit stagnant, where they don't have enough energy to sort of push themselves to the next phase. So a lot of this comes down to how much energy sort of you can crank up, and that's just interesting. So how much energy a person can crank up will determine how successful they will be in this market economy. And a market economy also means that you will have a lot of scarcity in many ways. Because people are gonna gravitate towards the best. So yeah, it is one of these things that is kind of interesting to look at, not becoming helpless, and always trying to see how you can sort of gain momentum in something and keeping it fun. Like you have to sort of keep it fun, because if you don't, you're probably going to stop. But if you're doing something that you love, even though that's a buzzword that a lot of people are using these days, if you're doing something that you truly love, then why would you care even about the rewards? Because it's almost like the moment you start to care about the rewards, you sort of already will lose. Because you're going to be in a market economy, even on the blockchain stuff, you're going to be competing against people that don't even care about the rewards. Maybe don't even need the rewards, but they just love to share. They love to give it all. Um, so that's something sort of interesting to consider. So I get sort of confused even when people, like for example, what people should focus on is if they're getting, let's say, some whale support, they should focus on that. They should focus on the good, and the good will sort of grow, even though that might sound super cheesy, but that's sort of how you sort of have to look at this whole thing, and you sort of have to understand the long term side of things. That if you are on a system and other people are also working daily, if they are building themselves up, and if you are building yourself up, and you're actually looking at, are they actually building themselves up, or are they just not actually putting in time and energy? Are they just faking it or something like that? Because if they are not building themselves up, that means you're gonna sort of have less value. So if you are really doing your best job and they are really doing the best job, you will be able to piggyback on that energy. Like that will, because if you're supporting them and they see that you work, they can sort of see more this win-win dynamic, and then you truly start to see the proof of brain, because the proof of brain goes deeper than sort of like 2 seconds looking at some trending page, because you have to understand that it's actually real human beings we're talking about. And when we're talking about real human beings, to transform human beings, it takes a very, very long time, and it takes a lot of dedication, which means the rewards are not going to come now. They're going to come in the future. And so people just looking at this instant reward thing, and not looking at long-term investments. So yeah, Justine's advice is great. Don't be helpless, because it's not, it's really petty, and it doesn't really get you anywhere. And it's just more fun to learn to not be helpless and actually always be the solution, not the problem. Because if you always can find solutions to stuff, because if you ask better questions, you can always find the answers, right? So that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about today. And yeah, so have a great day, DTube and Steam Blockchain.